This is Tyler Jones, and you're listening to the Element Podcast. What's up, Element listeners? You're sitting here with me and KC, and we're on the couch here in Sulphur Springs again. It's a beautiful day. I think it was in the 60s when we kind of decided to sit down. The sun is coming out, so it may be getting warmer, and the carp may be getting it right now. But we're sitting here. What's going on, KC?
Man, looking outside at the window, and the fog has lifted, which took a long time today, really. I mean, it wasn't like a fog. It's kind of like a haze or whatever, but, like the bugs are kind of flying around a little bit out there. I can see a midge through your window. Like,
don't be lying.
It's on. You see him right there next to the grill? Oh,
yep.
He just flew off.
Yeah, I see him.
Yeah, so it's on. I mean, like, spring has sprung. The trees have sprouted. We're going to be pretty much wrapping up our postseason scouting here pretty quick just because it's going to get so thick that we can't do much. The snakes are out.
They are. That is a scary thing, too.
Yeah, I got spider web all over me this morning when I was walking outside. So
Dude, when we went out to public the other day, spider webs were hitting me in the face like crazy, man.
Yeah.
So,
man, I think we've talked about this before. Like, I'm not scared of spiders at all. I don't like web in my eyes. Like, it drives me crazy. It's a texture kind of thing. You know, some people don't like pears or whatever because they have a weird texture.
Never heard that one, but the chalkboard thing would probably be relatable.
Yeah, that's probably a little more relatable for most folks. Nails on chalkboard kind of thing. That's kind of what it is.
Okay.
Spiderwebs and me. Yeah.
See, that's kind of weird. I didn't know that. You don't have many things that bother you, it seems like.
Yeah. Well,
Except
it's not like
people.
I don't like freak out and run off with my hair on fire, but I'm just like, you know, just real bad.
Yeah, I hadn't seen too many things bother you except for people. So.
Yeah, that's it. People bother me pretty often. Senators and stuff.
Yeah, and fake people.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, speaking of public, we went out and did some of that recently.
Yeah, we did. It was a flying trip. I got finished with some work early one day. I was like, hey, dude, come on.
Yeah.
You said, hey, I got my son with me. I was like, bring him on, man. Let's go.
So I got to have basically a 50-pound
gunny sack?
Yeah, gunny sack. Yeah, I had that on my shoulders for a long time until he finally kind of woke up from his nap and wasn't in a bad mood, and then he walked around a little bit after that. But so we didn't get too far off the beaten path, but we did check out some stuff we'd been wanting to look at, and we got a camera checked, which was so eventful.
Oh man, let me tell you, it's good. Man, I just love those
How many
three pictures of
have?
those does. Man,
3 pictures.
3 doe pictures are just killer. I mean,
it wasn't out long, so we'll give it that. But at the same time, we had an unfortunate circumstance that kind of left us with, like when we put the camera out, we really should have put it somewhere else, and we thought maybe we would move it down there, and by the time we got done with our unfortunate circumstance, we ended up not really having the time to do it. So we didn't quite get it where we wanted to.
Spend a lot of time on unfortunate circumstance, but just remember that street tires are not meant for off-road.
No.
Not really off-road even, just...
No, on-road.
On-road.
They're not meant for mud roads.
No, not at all. And I think, true, you know, to kind of get a little bit more tactical about this, I think that trail was super active in what you would call postseason or winter.
Right.
We're entering spring, and I don't think the deer are using the food sources like they were.
Yeah.
I think that trail died like instantaneously with when we placed the camera.
Right. I think you mentioned that, and I think that you're right because we're starting to see a ton of buds on the trees, and it's funny because a few weeks prior to that, when I had pulled the trail camera that had teenager on it, you could tell that lots of deer were starting to eat those buds before you even really realized.
Barely forming then.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, I mean, you know, I live in a residential neighborhood where there's a lot of deer, and there is one tree in particular that's flowering right now. It's not a dogwood, but it's a white flower tree. I don't know what it is, but there is a browse level line where all the flowers are gone off that tree. It's pretty cool. I need to take a picture of it and show it to you.
Dude, trail camera picture.
Dude, it would be a cool place to put a trail camera.
Yeah.
I bet you... Okay, so our guest today will probably have a little idea on something like that.
I imagine he does. He's a trail camera expert. At least that's what I've heard. He may tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's a pretty humble guy, but he would probably have some ideas, I'm sure. We may need to talk to him.
Yeah. So the guy we're alluding to is Gil Lackey. He's from Tennessee. Super cool, funny guy. I've talked to him a little bit, and he's gonna be good for us.
Yeah, he's just real lighthearted and kind of the type that we like to have on the podcast to talk to. We like all kinds, but it's definitely nice to have a little bit of a not so serious, down in the dumps.
So how bad is CWD?
Yeah, or how many public lands are they going to take?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's nice to have that, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk. It's just going to basically be guys who love the outdoors having a conversation and picking each other's brains about things, I'm sure. But anyway, so Gil Lackey's going to be on here. He's an outdoor freelance writer, and we're gonna have some talk with him. But before that, let's talk about what we're doing this weekend. We are going to the Mecca.
The Mecca. We're going to go to the Promised Land.
Iowa,
the land of giants, particularly the section that's supposed to be the best,
the
right?
southern half.
The southern half.
Yep.
And it's closer to us, so that's good.
Yes,
and
that's good.
We've been anticipating this trip for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And we're hoping and praying that you do draw a tag this year.
Yeah.
And
and hoping and praying that I can afford it.
Yeah. That's going to happen. It's all right, dude. We'll eat beans between now and then. We'll be good.
I like your confidence.
Yeah. Eat some hogs, eat some beans, and
I haven't eaten a lot of wild games.
Yeah.
So saving some money there.
Yeah. So
except for the rest of my family doesn't eat a ton of it. So it's like, I just got 3 other people that are eating chilies every night.
Oh man, I know it. Every day on the way home, like from church or something, Cassie's like, "You want to stop it and get some sandwiches?"
It's like, yeah, I want to, but I'd rather go to Iowa.
And then she's caught on to me. Okay.
Oh no.
Yeah, I know it.
We're doomed.
Okay, so what I've always done, and I'm not guilt tripping, but I'll just tell her, hey, I'll eat when I get home, but if you want to stop and get something, we can, because she's a little more picky than I am, honestly, and I'm fine with that. People have their different ways. I love her,
yeah,
we'll roll with it. And like now she's like, no, I'm not going to do that. If you're not going to eat, I'm not going to eat. I'm like, well, dang it. How else am I going to put some chips in my favor, for this whole, I'm going to go on Iowa this weekend.
Hey, well, the more money you got in the bank account.
That's true, just overall.
Yeah. It's still not turned out all right for you.
Yeah, but so we're going to leave early Friday morning probably and head out, and we'll try to do a little bit of stuff from the road maybe. And
Friday night?
Yeah, try to kind of keep y'all updated on what's going on. Check out our social media pages for that stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe some live Instagram videos.
Yeah, we'll do a little something if we see something or whatever. And we're gonna take the cameras, of course, as we always do, and video the whole process. And I'm sure I'll put together a little something that you guys can see. Hopefully, we'll find a few sheds. I would think with KC's eyes, we definitely will. And
Tyler's comprehension, of course, would be great.
My comprehension of why there's an oak tree there and a maple over there.
No, dude, I've got this feeling that you're gonna smoke me in Iowa.
No way.
You know why? Because I'm used to looking for these little 40-inch sheds in East Texas. That 40's probably being a little respectful.
That's on the
25s,
big side.
Yeah, 25-inch sheds in East Texas. You're used to looking for those giant Kansas sheds, so we're gonna be in your element up there.
I mean, I like that.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
No pun intended, but it happens.
I mean, I don't know. It's just, if it was the opposite, maybe. Like if I was used to looking for baby sheds, then maybe. But I think when you see a 50-inch side, then you're going to be like,
that's true.
It's pretty easy
for
to spot.
We're going to take a trip to the Everglades and hunt for sheds for key deer.
Yeah.
It might come into play, but if you see a 50-inch shed, it's pretty obvious. It's the small ones that are harder to find.
I mean, it's either that or a big, cottonwood branch that fell down. So you go over and look at it, and you find out it's not a big cottonwood branch; it's a giant deer.
That's what I'm talking about.
Anyway, hopefully we find a few. I know there's been a lot of the serious people up there. I've probably been hunting sheds up there and have picked up some of the early droppers. But hopefully, I'm hoping this week that it's a big week for the drops, and that we can get out there and get some before the other industry people of the world do.
Well, hey, the juries say that the first week in March is the time. So
I believe what
I
the jury
will believe
say.
Whatever he says. Mark, especially Mark and Terry both.
They're smart dudes.
You're smart guys and other stuff. So we're going at the right time. And should be fun, man. I'm so pumped. I'm just I know that you're excited too, but I think we show it in different ways, and I'm not for the last month I've been like, hey Tyler, have you seen this? Have you thought of this?
I'm like, no, because I don't have internet service. But yeah, that's gonna be fun, man. We're gonna keep you guys updated. Also, I guess back to the local public here, real quick. Just wanted to update everybody that we did have a camera stolen.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. And guys, in case you wanted to know, if you may or may not be coming in from private, we're not sure. But if you are, it's pretty easy to get on the county office
appraisal district
website and figure out what the landowner names are and their contact information. That's near our cameras. So, I'm not sure that's what happened, but if it did, just know that it'd be pretty easy to get some names that way.
We're not sure, but we're pretty sure.
Yeah, and we have other cameras in the woods too that didn't get stolen.
Right.
So that's interesting.
All of the other ones.
Yeah,
all
exactly.
of them except for that one.
So don't go hunt for our other cameras, please. But
yes. Yeah. And please be careful because you might be your face might be on.
Might be on some of the.
We
cameras.
have checked cameras and seen dudes. So we know who's out there and. We're going to keep that in mind for sure. But
what did we decide after that happened?
That we would never steal a camera?
Yeah, well, of course.
We had already decided that, though.
Yeah. And the thing with the stolen camera thing is that, man, it's not about losing. Okay, side note, this wasn't my camera, it was Tyler's, so maybe I can say this and you can't. But it's not about losing the $60 or $80 camera. It's the pictures that were on there, the amount of time. Like, me and you literally spent 4 hours in the woods before we hung that camera.
The Burning Brownie Points episode talks a lot
centered
about
around that camera.
Yeah, so
my wife came out, drove 45 minutes with bronchitis, and picked us up in the dark in the rain that day.
We were way back. We spent a lot of time hanging this camera, a lot of effort put into it. A lot of effort. I was sore the next day, all over because we did shoulders all the way down to my legs, and that's probably one of the most frustrating aspects. Then also just the fact of like, what was there? Yeah. We spent a lot of time just to get a few pictures to know if maybe we should spend a couple days there next year, and when we got stolen, maybe to keep us from spending a couple of days there.
Well,
next year, I don't know.
I don't know about you, but to me, I'm invigorated. Like,
oh yeah,
that tells me that I don't feel like a serious hunter is going to steal another guy's trail camera, especially not a very expensive one, I think that was a deterrence, is what I think it was. And it did the exact opposite for me. Like, now I'm like, I'm going to go in there because there's something they're hiding.
Right.
And there's a big deer in there. So what we decided is that we're going to start buying Python locks and putting them on our cameras.
Yeah. And the only thing that it keeps people who aren't super serious about taking that camera from taking it. I mean, if they want to, and a lot of our cameras are going to be far enough back that nobody wants to carry bolt cutters in there, so that'll help. And then, hopefully people won't have a saw, and a lot of our cameras will be hung on a decent sized tree from now on too, hopefully, so that you can't just cut through it. But, hopefully that'll deter a few people, and we'll be able to keep our $60 plus our, however many dollar SD card that we're spending on. So,
and the pictures, man.
The pictures
too. The pictures so bad.
But yeah, I would pay that money, the card and the
for the info that's on that, because that was a month and a half worth of soak.
Yeah, it was good. So
of prime time. But anyways, alas, here we are, one camera less, and we're gonna buy some pythons. So and we found those pretty cheap on Amazon, by the way. So we might link that if we want to help other people out, because I'm sure everybody has that same issue.
Yeah, I mean, if you're hunting
at least that same concern.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We're trying to be serious about this public land deal. We want to put some deer on the ground for you guys to see and to know that, hopefully to inspire you to know that, you can go out there and do that too. And so we're taking it serious to the point where we're trying to figure these deer out. And the only way we can really for sure do that is, I feel like, with trail cameras, because case in point, this year where we spent a majority of our time this year, if we hadn't had a trail camera there, we wouldn't have spent much time there probably.
That's exactly right.
There wasn't a ton of sign, but we happened to put it in, or you happened to put it in a great spot, and because of the first camera pull, we were like locked down in December there, And who knows if that changes next year or whatever. But
I'm sure it will some, because this year we were rushed. That's just all there was to it. I got married at a very inconvenient time for rut purposes, but me and my wife talked it out, and we'll be good to go in the future. I just had to sacrifice a week there right in the middle of November, but that's fine. And, next year we're going to have the whole preseason. Like, my goal is for one of us to put a deer down before October 31st.
Yeah,
and the
I think
other
so
guy
too.
Be able to hunt the rut in late season. I think it can happen,
Oh,
man.
I think so too, for sure. We're going to do some some scrape hunting, I think, for one, and maybe some water source hunting. I've been looking into that a little bit and trying to figure that out. So,
and then the buck bed thing, we've been concentrating on that, and who knows if it's going to pay off or not, but we're going to try it out and see.
Dude, we've been digging into hunting beasts and stuff like that and trying to figure out what these experts are calling buck beds and how they're deciphering what is a buck bed and what's not. And, with the hogs and everything, it's really tough. But we have found a couple of places, at least a few places, that we can almost guarantee are buck beds. I mean, they're just stacked with rubs in a really thick little thicket, or whatever.
Yeah.
So
we went in that in the last episode, too, in Sheds and Beds.
Yeah.
And you put out a little video on that, too. It's pretty cool.
Right. And I can link to that. I'll link to that, actually, the little Sheds and Beds video, and the bucking part is my favorite part. Anyway, let's get Gil on the phone. How about?
All right, sounds good, man.
You good for that? All right.
Yeah.
On the phone now, we have Gil Lackey. He's an outdoor rider and possibly the best guy that I've ever met. So, what's going on, Gil?
The check is in the mail, man. Appreciate that.
Awesome, dude. Well, where are you coming to us from today?
I live in Nashville, Tennessee.
Awesome. I've been there several times.
Come back and visit us, man. Come see me.
It's a cool town. I like the vibe. It's a lot like Austin to me, but with nicer people, I feel like.
I hear that a lot, and I hear that people are just really weird in both cities, and I'm part of that. So,
well,
I'm proud of that.
It's the artistic thing that goes on in both cities, I think. But for some reason, they do. They seem nicer in Nashville. I do like hanging out there a lot, for sure.
Well, come see me. Yeah, we're nice and we're artistic, but I'm just your regular old redneck.
Well, you got to have a few of those mixed in, especially in a country music town, right?
That's right, baby.
Well, cool, man. So we kind of got wind of you through one of KC's friends, and you had spoken at the Dallas Safari Club convention here in Dallas, obviously, in January. And it was extremely cold. What did you speak on while you were there?
I was talking about trail cameras, and sort of the title was A to Z, so it was like beginning from the very basics to the most technical things I know, because people that come have different interests and questions, and you never know what they're going to want to hear.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, and there's a few things that we have, a couple of curveballs and sliders that will come your way just for sake of not just burning out the trail camera subject, but I guess. Are you ready for that? I mean, we're gonna give you some time.
I'm not afraid to strike out. I have been striking out all my life, so you throw any pitch you want.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I want you to ask me. I already have a first question for you.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
I'm throwing you a slider.
This works. I love it.
Do you want to talk about trail cameras first?
That's fine. Whatever you want to do.
Here's my pitch.
Okay.
You were talking about Dallas and Nashville, and I just wanted to make it known to folks that I got interested in trail cameras and I'm a huge hunter and fisherman and all that, but I live in the middle of urban Nashville. It's a big city, well, not big like Dallas, but it's like 1 million people. And I live in a highly populated area of Nashville. And I put my cameras in my backyard. My neighbors are 20 to 25 feet away from me. That's how packed I am. And I've got hundreds of thousands of pictures of coyotes and foxes and owls and hawks and stuff like that. Of course, we all love deer and we love being out in the country. But I just wanted to throw that out that you don't have to have a nice spread of 100 acres or 1,000 acres. You can do this on my quarter of an acre and get incredible shots and have a ball with it.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. We hunt some public land here in Texas, and we had a lot of different animals over the course of this season that showed up, not necessarily on our trail cameras, but while we were hunting, we saw tons of coyotes, bobcats, feral hogs, and it's just cool. We film from the tree, too, so it's just cool to have that in there every once in a while and to see, all the different things that can show up in the most kind of unpredictable spots,
Yeah, I mean that's my line I've always had with trail cameras is you never know. It's kind of like the Forrest Gump box of chocolates.
Mm-hmm.
You absolutely have no idea what you're going to get. You never freaking know. It could be some interesting animal you never get to see in daylight. Most of mine are nighttime photos, or it could be a poacher. You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, I've had a trespasser on before myself. And kind of one of the cool things that that I like about that whole aspect. You talk about getting different pictures of different animals. I feel like that's what makes you an outdoorsman and not just a hunter. Because for me, I learned an appreciation, especially for birds. And I love getting different varieties of birds on film, whether that be, with my DSLR or on trail camera. We had a beautiful cardinal picture this year. That was pretty cool. And, I feel like things like that really help you to appreciate your surroundings and where you're at, and more than just, hey, when's that big buck going to come by, And then at the same time, I was telling Tyler the other day that I feel like maybe once you start to grasp those big concepts of what other animals are doing, it can actually help and assist you with, your buck hunting or your doe hunting, or, trying to kill squirrels, whatever you're trying to do,
I think absolutely. I think it makes you a better woodsman, and it also it keeps me out in the woods the whole year. I used to be, I would go out for ducks and then deer and then wait till turkey season, and there was a time for everything that needed to be hunted, and now there's no time. Everything is out there to be photographed at any time.
Yeah, definitely.
And I learned so much. It's kind of like, I don't know, you shoot a deer and you're trailing it and you find out where the turkeys are roosting.
Mm-hmm.
Everything helps a little bit. And the same thing with trail cameras. You're trying to get pictures in February after deer season of a bobcat. You find out something interesting about turkeys or deer or whatever you're hunting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it's all a big web, it all connects somewhere, seems like.
Absolutely.
So, for the listener that may not know who you are, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are doing what you're doing today?
Let's see. I had a midlife crisis. I was a commercial real estate broker.
Yep. Okay.
Who wore a suit to work for 22 years and got sick of it. And long story short, I was the president of the local Trout Unlimited chapter, and I had to write their newsletter. And I started enjoying it and parlayed that into an outdoor writing career, and started editing some magazines, and it pushed me into photography, which I do a little bit, but more, if you even want to call trail camera photography, I take, better than the lower quality camera photos. I have high quality camera photos and I sell them for a living.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
I go around the country and I talk about trail cameras a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
So I make a ton less money than I ever did. And I'm about a ton happier than I've ever been.
Right. Yeah. A lot less stress probably in that. Just kind of doing what you do,
That's great. I love it, man. I love talking to guys like y'all. I mean, how can you go wrong talking about hunting and fishing and conservation and the outdoors? I mean,
that's what we're doing. We love
living
it.
the dream. That's what I'm saying, baby.
It is, man. I love it. Cool. Well, so I guess, I don't know if this necessarily bridges to anything we've been talking about so far, but KC was telling me he saw that you had maybe shot a buck this year, and we were wondering if your trail cameras played into that and how your season went, I guess, too, just the story of it.
I wish I could say that everything went to plan. I picked that buck out because I've got him on trail camera and da-da-da-da-da-da, and then it worked to its fruition that way. And I've had that happen a few times. But in this particular case, there were no trail cameras involved. And I will tell you that I had a great season in that, I saw a bunch of deer, put some meat in the freezer. And the buck that you're talking about, it was muzzleloader season. I did absolutely everything I could possibly do to screw it up, and the deer decided to commit suicide. So
That
I will
happens.
take luck over. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and I'd love to say I use my skill, but I love it when things go bad and you still get lucky. And I also depend on the stupid season when the bucks are chasing around a lot to make their mistakes, because I'm not smart enough to pattern bucks very often.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. I guess I just got lucky, and I'll take it, man.
So this kind of bridges into a question we had later on, but I think that this is a good point to segue into. Okay, so I hunt. I've been hunting for probably a dozen years or so in Kansas, and when we first started hunting there, I mean, I was pretty young and I didn't know a whole lot about trail cameras, but I did know my dad was using basically trail camera that you had to get the pictures off of it and take it up to Walmart and get them developed, and there was 24 or 36 of them or whatever, and it was, but and because of that, you never really knew what was on your place all the time. And it was really cool to be sitting there on a 50-degree sunny afternoon day in Kansas on a fence line, thinking you never know what's going to walk down that fence line on November 15th or whatever, and you don't really know what's on this place. So in your mind and in your dreams, there's a 200 behind every corner, And I was just kind of wondering if you had any thoughts about the old way, the mystery before we had trail camera, technology.
Gosh, hardly anybody ever talks about that. That's a great question. Because I have some friends that I guess I'm an old timer. I'm 50, but I have some that are in their 70s that just really can't stand the idea of trail cameras. They'll never step up to the plate. And I'm so addicted now that I'm going to be a trail camera guy no matter what. But I would say two things. One, I think you're right. I think there is a great mystery and aura about never knowing what's going to show up. And I think that's true. I don't think I'll ever overcome my love for trail cameras anyway. I'll still let that win out every time. But the other thing that trail cameras have proven to me more than anything is that you never know what's going to show up anyway. It's amazing how many deer that I like, for instance, bucks that I've got a name for on a certain property, and right about hunting season, they pull out their calendars and they know we're about to shoot, and they go elsewhere. They go into a feeding pattern on another property or whatever, and then all of a sudden in the middle of November, some other buck just comes wandering in that you've never gotten on camera or you've never seen. So I think that deer are unpredictable enough, at least for me. They're smarter than I am, or they're unpredictable enough to make it okay to use every little thing that I can to try to get in their bedroom. It's still not going to be enough to know where they all are at all the time. That way, I mean, it wouldn't be any fun if you just took pictures and went, oh, at 3:00, the biggest buck in town is going to be behind that tree. Let's go out and shoot it. It never, maybe for you Kansas boys where you grow them big all the time, but for me that just never happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and we joke about it, but there was a buck. The deer that I shot in Kansas in 2013 was an old 7-point and just real heavy, probably 19 inches wide, and we've been running several trail cameras on that property all year, and we have a big chunk of property that we hunt up there, and I hadn't seen him all year, and I shot him on, I don't know, it was about a week and a half into December, and hadn't seen him all year. So, like you said, at any time, a deer, especially a buck that may still, be an old warrior that knows that there's still does and heat, somewhere out there possibly, and he's roaming. You never know when he's going to show up while you're sitting there, and that's what's cool about about being able to run trail cameras, but you have to train your mind to know and to not get down, and to know that there is a possibility at all times. Deer are unpredictable.
The science these days, the telemetry studies are showing that these old wise bucks might stay right put all season long on 100 acres, or they might go 15 miles away. Right. You never know. I mean, what it shows me is that bucks and maybe even does, I don't know, but they're individuals. You can't count on them to do what the books say they're supposed to do, because they just don't do that. Not all deer just relate to an obvious feeding and bedding pattern. Mm-hmm. Not all deer stay on the same property. They have different personalities. Some go nocturnal. You just never know. So it makes it fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. This year I missed a buck, and it was a tough deal for me, Gil, but it's going to happen to everybody.
We've been talking for 20 minutes, and that just now came up.
I know. It was painful. He came right in at 30 yards, and I hunt mostly public land, and man, he just jumped my string. I'm a bow hunter, so, and we played back the footage, and if he hadn't jumped, I would have smoked him, but he's just old and wary, and that's what they do, and lessons learned. But, the thing about that deer was we had 12 different bucks on camera at that location and had never seen that deer on camera until that day. Typical. And he was an obvious shooter when he came in, big, mature 4.5, 5.5-year-old deer. And it's just like what you're saying. It's a testament to that, where it's just you never know what's going to come around the corner, And that was late December, right?
Late December.
And it was just pretty cool, that just still have that surprise and the jitters, even though you prepared yourself for that the whole time. But,
and the killer is, if you had aimed low and accounted for him jumping the string, he wouldn't have jumped the string.
Yes, exactly. I'd have smoked him in the front leg and he'd ran off,
That's what they do. They never play by the rules.
No, they don't. But, hey, let's say brand cameras are you running? Do you have a particular brand that you like, or, what do you got out there in the field right now?
All right. I haven't talked to you guys about this, and your listeners are going to hate me for this, because I'm going to do it. But two things. One is, so to be honest, I'm a snotty photographer. I have to have really pretty pictures, because that's how I feed my family. Mm-hmm. So I don't use commercial cameras very much. I use what they call homebrew cameras. And those are cameras that are made from a regular point and shoot, like the world used to own before we had smartphones. They're like old point and shoots that people hack and they make into cameras, and they take a prettier picture. But I also use some commercial cameras, and to be honest, the best probably quality photos are going to be American-made Reconyx cameras, and they have problems too. All cameras have trade-offs. Some might be, a good night photo, and then a bad daytime video. I mean, they're set up in certain ways, certain features where you can't have it all. But Reconyx is great, but they're expensive. Mm-hmm. So then you kind of go down the rung to the ones that are pretty much almost all the rest are made in China. Mm-hmm. They're manufactured in China with cheaper parts and cheaper labor and cheaper image processors. And so I'm really buying off of their features. I like Bushnells, but to be honest, they're made by the same company or manufacturer that make the other cameras too. So it's because I like their reliability, and I have some friends there. But I think the best thing, I know I'm being long-winded on what should be an easy answer, but what I normally do, if I want to know about a trail camera, is I'll go online to a website, a review website like trailcampro.com, and I'll review the newest ones that are coming out. I'll not review, I'll look at it, I'll read it. And there's pages on there that'll talk about the site manager's favorite cameras for certain things. And they're different uses. Like, for instance, one might be for security cameras, which would make you have to have no flash cameras. That's a whole nother story. Probably the most important thing you're buying, or the most important decision you make first, is whether you want a white flash or a red flash or a no flash camera.
Yeah,
and we could talk about that for 6 weeks.
Oh my gosh, that was one of my questions, but I didn't know if we wanted to go down that rabbit hole or not. That's a long one.
It's a long
every
one.
deer reacts
you know
different.
What I'll do? I'm going to piss off millions or thousands of trail camera manufacturers and owners.
Let's do it.
And I will tell you one thing. This is a little tip that you get from anybody that uses game cameras professionally every day, like wildlife resource agencies or police or firefighters that use them in research and things like that. But anyway, here's the thing. White flash cameras, nobody ever uses but goobers like me who have to get a pretty picture. I love them because they have great color night photos. If you're just a naturalist and you're not worried about spooking Luther the Wonder Buck, these are great cameras. If you don't want to spook anything, but you don't care about the quality of photos, you get a no flash camera, no glow, no flash. Doesn't scare the animals at all. Here's where I tick everybody off. The ones that most people buy are the red flash, what they call infrared cameras, but they're not true infrared like the no glow cameras are. But the red flash that just emits a little red beam, most people buy them, and they really take crappy pictures, and they scare animals, just like a white flash. We don't know why, but most of the animals that are afraid of a white flash camera are afraid of a red flash. So you pay maybe a little bit less than you would for a no-glow, but you're getting none of the benefits and all of the downfalls of the other two types of cameras. So for me, it's either no-glow if I want to kill a deer, or a white flash if I want pretty pictures. That's it.
Cool. That's a good tip. So like we've kind of alluded to a couple of times here, we are hunting a lot of public land. And we unfortunately last week found out that we had a camera stolen. And it was way, way back. And it was the last one I would have thought would be stolen out of all the cameras we're running on our public lands right now. But for the guys that may be doing such, personally, we're running very inexpensive trail cameras for that reason. But is it worth?
A lot of people opt to do that. It's a good philosophy. But go ahead.
Well, is it worth? I don't know. Do you have any tips as far as, first of all, that a cheaper camera, anything that you think works better than the other cheaper cameras, or any spec that a camera may have that's in that range, that price range of maybe $40 to $60 that would work better? And then also is the cable is a cable worth it? Is it pretty foolproof as far as keeping people from stealing your cameras?
Heck no.
I didn't think so.
Cable's not foolproof at all. Most people cut a cable with cable cutters to get your camera or my camera. Most of us have had it happen, and it hurts, man. It's personal. But if they're out in the middle of nowhere and they're not worried about getting caught, they'll cut the tree down. I mean, if they want it,
right?
They're going to get it. But I still use a cable because I don't know. Maybe there are people out there that don't have the time or the ability to take the time to steal it. So one of the philosophies is just to knowing that your cameras are going to break after bearing the elements of Texas, the heat, or Saskatchewan cold, or the every once in a while there's going to be a little moisture get in your camera that's just terrible for it, and it's going to die. Or somebody's going to steal it, like you said. So they go out and they'll buy 10 really crummy cameras. By the way, a crummy camera today is much better than a great camera 5 or 10 years ago. So it's still a decent camera, you know? And I think it's a good philosophy. I don't do that because I want really, really good quality pictures. And I try to put them out in places where they're not going to get stolen. I'll hide them really, really well. I'll put them back in the, you know, most of my pictures are taken in thickets anyway. I mean, if I want to get a bobcat or a coyote or even a doe, I mean, we see a doe out in the middle of the field all day and we think that's where they hang out all day, but they prefer to be in cover. So I usually put my stuff hidden pretty well.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, which I went around a lot, I don't know many cameras under $100 that I would trust personally, but there are some around the $100 range. There's a Spy Point Force 10 that I think is about $100. There are a couple of Brownings that are about $100. And once you get below that, once you get to the $60, $50, $40 on sale at Academy or Bass Pro, stuff like that, they're all about the same. You're flipping a coin as to, you know, they're going to make them for about $8, $10 and sell them for 40 or 50. Now imagine all that for $8 or $10. You're not going to get quality.
Right.
But the cool thing is you might buy 5 of these and have 3 of them that last for 5 years. So it's the best deal in the world. I mean, go out and buy 5 $50 cuttybacks on sale at Bass Pro, and you're going to get fine pictures. And I was making fun of the red flash cameras or the red glow or the infrared red cameras. And people that already have them, that doesn't mean they don't work great. I'm just saying, if I were going to start off from the get-go and had a choice, I would stay away from them. But plenty of $50 red flash cameras do the trick and do great. Don't let me be too snooty about it because they do just fine.
Yeah, I have a red flash, so you're making fun of me, but that's fine.
Well, I'm a snooty. You know, I got these high-end cameras. I really think I'm something. I don't know what it is.
No.
The truth is, people get great pictures when they put in half the effort and a tenth of the money that I do. So I don't know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I know it. No, the reason I have mine is because it was on sale. I didn't care if it was red flash or not. You know, that's just the way what I ended up with.
People don't even look. Yeah,
No.
people don't even look. And that's what's funny because it really matters. I mean, red flash will scare the crap out of your deer. I'm not kidding you. Now, I really don't believe that they'll go to Oklahoma. I believe they just skirt the flash. I don't think they're just avoiding it. They're not, you know, I've sat up in tree stands and watched deer during season near a camera, and I watch them avoid the camera. It's not like they're being shot out of a cannon to another state. They just walk away. It's not a big deal.
Something kind of willy on a tree they don't understand. On that note, do you set your cameras in a certain way to where that it's more inconspicuous or not going to spook deer as much? So let me give you a scenario. On scrapes, scrapes are a great place to hang a camera. Would you position it at the rear of the deer as opposed to the head, or, you know, like a different direction on a trail?
What I do with scrapes is, first of all, if you're going to hang a camera on a scrape, I mean, I hate to say it, I'm being snooty again, but just have a freaking no-glow camera because they're not going to put up with a white or a red flash sitting there while they're rubbing and, you know, their orbital glands and they're pawing in the dirt. They're not going to put up with it. They're not. You can't hide it 30 feet up in a tree like you would a security camera from a burglar or something. You have to put it down closer to their level if you want to get cool pictures, and just so you can be able to tell if it's a mature deer or a 7-pointer or an 8-pointer. I really think that unless you have some sort of bait like, I don't know, corn or a mineral block or water, you know, I love using water as a bait. unless you have something they really want or need, they're not going to hang out in front of the camera if they can see the flash or hear the flash or smell you. So I usually put the camera, if I can, and if it's the right setup, I will put the camera on the tree that is holding up the licking branch and that they're scraping under. I mean, right in their face. Because I want a cool picture. I want to be, if I'm going to put that effort in, I might as well make it interesting. That's what I talk about in my seminars. Just make it interesting. Do something fun. I mean, half the time, I swear to you, I do this. I don't even use a cable or a tree. I just put the camera on the ground and I'll put some buck tarsal scent on top of the camera, facing up at a cool tree, maybe up in the sky.
Yeah, that's a neat shot.
And a deer will walk by and sniff the camera. They'll just be curious.
I bet you some really interesting antler pics from that angle too.
Oh, yeah.
Contrasting
it's
into
cool.
the sky. Yeah, that'd be
and
cool.
I'll give you another one that you smart young hunters have probably already heard. A good bait for scrapes. And I'm sure you've already heard this, but if you're gonna hunt a scrape or put a trail camera on a scrape, you usually want to use one that has a licking branch above it. Those are the ones that get used the most. But if I don't have some sort of doe pee or buck scent to freshen the scrape, I will use what we call me pee. Have you guys ever heard of me pee?
We use it.
I think we know something about that. We actually have a few trail camera pictures of these guys standing over our scrape. They look kind of like us. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Just drop trowel and pee in your scrape.
Yeah, I always, I don't know if this makes a difference or not, and you can tell me what you think, but I always try to make sure and do that only when I haven't drank coffee in the last 4 hours or something, pungent like that. Do you think it makes a difference?
I don't know. That is a great, I'm so anal, man, that like when I'm hunting, I don't drink coffee because I'm afraid of the scent. So what happens to me is I like boil my whole body and everything around me and do everything that I possibly can do, and I still get busted. And then the guy that hadn't taken a shower for a week goes out and kills a 170 class deer, and I hate him. But so I'm not a good example, but I believe that stuff does matter. And one of the reasons I do is one of the biologists around here in Tennessee swears that female me-pee, meaning human urine, does not work on scrapes. So I think there's some sort of hormonal thing. I don't see why coffee and, garlic and whatever else might have an effect on your pee. Surely what comes in has an effect on what's out. What has a bigger effect is we going out there and sweating all over the place. But, I like to try to kind of lay low and don't go out there and put a lot of scent out, I don't like to handle the licking branch with my hand or anything like that.
Yeah.
That'll just flip them out.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that was interesting. Before we go any deeper, I'm going to kill the whitetail tactics for a second.
Sure.
And basically, since you took a shot at us with our red flash cameras, we'll take a shot at you. Why are these companies focusing? Like, it seems like these trail cam companies right now are focusing heavily on marketing the highest megapixel cameras that there are rather than trigger speed. Like, we're out there, like, on public land, like, we just need to get a decent picture of a buck that we know is a shooter. We don't have to know how many tines he has or if he scores 176 or 167. And so, why is that? Surely they can't be just marketing to people like you, are they?
No, they're marketing to everybody. And the reason is they are liars and we're all stupid and we're falling for it. And it's a really good question, but I won't go into too deep of a deal, but just people go, okay, I can get 12 megapixels instead of 5. I know that's better. So I'm going to pay for it. I'll get a better picture. I'll be able to see I'm not paying that much more for it, and they're marketing it. Boy, this must be the greatest camera in the world. Here's the truth. Every single, well, I'm not going to say that. Every single camera that I know of that's commercially made has between 2 and 5 megapixels. They're cheap image processors, which is totally fine. You know, obviously we hunters, like you said, we don't care that much in hunting situations about the color of a buck's eye. We want the basics.
Mm-hmm.
But what they do is they use something called interpolation to basically copy megapixels. Say you have, well, I won't get into it, but they lie to you. They don't actually have as many megapixels as they say they're having. And they have a way of copying the megapixels to guess what the color next to the pixel is, to pretend they have more megapixels than they have.
Mm-hmm.
And we buy it. We buy the lie, and it's a lie. And so we go out and do that. And they know that we buy the lie. And so they keep interpolating to make the megapixel count seem like it's higher than it is. And it's unfortunate because there's really nothing we can do about it. But what I would tell you is, if you are interested in trigger speed over megapixels or the visual properties of your photo, your images, you can go onto one of those review sites and they will say, this camera right here advertises 0.25 second trigger speed, and it only takes, 0.95, or it doesn't have 12 megapixels, it has 2. And these are the problems with this. It doesn't take good nighttime photos, or The batteries don't last very long. You drive an hour out into your public land and you expect to get a bunch of pictures, and it stops taking pictures after a week or two. These are things that we all need to know.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to know is to buy it and fail, or to look at these websites like Trail Cam Pro. It sounds like I have money in Trail Cam Pro. I don't. I really don't. It's just so helpful because they look at hundreds of cameras, so we don't have to. But you can poke fun at me on megapixels. That's all right. I've been called much worse.
That's all right. I felt like you weren't just one of those guys that dishes it and could take it too. So figured
God.
I would.
I'm married, so there you go.
Take it. We are too.
Yeah, we know it. We know it. So here's a question that I feel like a lot of guys out there would have, and I am a photographer, or at least self-proclaimed, and a videographer, so I know how I do this, but I'm interested to see how you do this. So a lot of guys think that they can. A lot of guys sometimes will think, well, I erased that SD card, when in truth, there's still data being held in that card that is keeping it pretty much full. How are you essentially formatting or erasing your cards on these cameras to make sure that you have freed up space on that SD card to take pictures the next time you hang it?
Usually I forget and don't worry about it, but I try to format my card. It is my understanding, and somebody said I was a trail camera expert a long time ago, and it stuck. But the truth is, when it comes to the inner workings of SD cards and the deep down inner workings of trail cameras, I'm not that guy. I'm more of a naturalist. I'm more of a hunter.
Mm-hmm.
I know more about wildlife biology than I do the cameras. But so what I normally try to do is just format my card, because I'm told that this is what actually completely erases all that data.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong. Somebody in there can tell me I'm crazy, but on a lot of the commercial cameras, there is a way that you can just punch a button and it'll format your card when it's in there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I try to do right as I put it in every time. Or you can go back if you've got a laptop. Do people use laptops anymore? Because, when I finally got rid of a desktop to get a laptop, people kept telling me, oh, you got to get a tablet. So I'm always the last to the party, but I'll format some of them on my laptop.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
Another good tip is to have a screen on your camera. This is something that you can look at when they're advertising the camera. Most of them will tell you whether they have a viewing screen on the camera. So you go out to check your camera and you find out that you want to exchange SD cards and batteries out in the field. You don't want to take them home and change them. You want to keep your camera out in the field. But if you don't know what you've gotten, you might be in a bad place. You might be in a place where there's a branch blowing in front of your camera and you got 1,000 pictures of nothing. Or you're just not getting any deer pictures. So you want to have some way to view what you've just taken. And so I only get cameras that have a viewer on the camera, and a lot of them don't have it. And so you got to make sure you have one, or you can bring something in the field, like maybe a
laptop,
a laptop or a portable viewer,
Yeah.
right, or laptop, and put your card in there and see what you got.
Okay. Any preferences on battery types?
All the now imagine I've got a lot of these cameras, so it's important to me not to spend too much money. So every single camera I've got takes rechargeable batteries. Not all of them do, but I use rechargeable batteries for everything because they last for a pretty darn long time. And I bought maybe 3 years ago, I bought a couple hundred rechargeable AA batteries, and if I've got 40 or 50 cameras out, they've lasted all that time. That would have cost me like $1,000. I'm making that up, but that's the truth for me. Now, if you don't have 50 cameras, if you only have one camera out there, then I would still go rechargeable, but I would go with a lithium battery instead of an alkaline battery. Lithium batteries just work better. They're more consistent. At the same time, your alkaline batteries might not fail on you, and it might not be a big deal. But if you're serious about it, I would go rechargeable or lithium.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's something I've been thinking about making the switch to, Gil. I have some cameras that I have good faith in, and then sometimes I pull up and there's only 15 pictures or something, and it's like, okay, what happened? There's tracks here, or, that took a few more. And I think that this offseason I'm going to experiment with the lithium or rechargeables and try to see if, that not pinching so many pennies will kind of pay off in the long run.
Yeah. So
we talked a while ago about kind of just how technology is advancing, your desktop to laptop to now tablets, and sooner or later it's going to be a display screen in your mind or something, who knows, but
sure.
And that's happening in the trail camera market too, and it's pretty apparent. And nowadays the cool thing is the whole cell phone camera thing. And
sure.
I've always had an inner dilemma in general with trail cameras, and I'm like you, like I've given into the beast and it's over now, like I'm going to use them. But
right.
Man, I can't get on board with this cell phone camera thing. Like, when are we going to get to the point when it's not hunting, and what's too much? When are we, I don't know, I guess not being hunters and just being people who shoot deer,
I totally agree. But you know what? I used to be like sort of anti-technology in the woods, kind of like you can't fly in Canada and then hunt the same day because you might have seen the moose that you're going to shoot while you're flying. Same with drones. It gives you an unfair advantage. And then one day, I'm name dropping here, and I'm not meaning to because I don't know the guy at all, but I was doing an email interview with Ted Nugent. And Ted makes me think of the most all-natural, gritty woodsman in the world. And I said, I saw 3 girls on horseback today, and they were all talking on their smartphones, and it just ruined the beautiful picture of the sunset and the horses. And I was like, what do you think about all this technology? And I expected him to come back and say, I think it's terrible. We need to live off the land. I'm Ted Nugent. And he said, you know what? He said, I'm in a tent blind right now on my laptop answering your emails. while I'm hunting. So we need to embrace the future, and that's the way it is. And I love it, and I think we should all embrace it. Well, I don't know if I'm there yet, but it sort of woke me up that this is the reality, and that we can choose. We shouldn't worry about what other hunters are doing. We should choose to use technology the way that makes us feel comfortable. If we aren't comfortable with, some people think it's an unfair advantage to hunt, usually anti-hunters, but think it's unfair advantage to hunt over a food plot or over bait, and some don't. We should trust our own judgment, and if we don't feel comfortable going out on the back 40 30 minutes after we've gotten a cell camera picture of the big buck and shooting it, then we shouldn't do it.
Yeah, I like that, every man for himself attitude. That's probably the way to approach the situation. I'm the guy who gets out of the truck, looks at his Google map or his hunting app, puts on his Sitka gear, and then grabs his recurve and goes to the woods. It's just a big mix of everything. It's just be who you are, right?
Oh yeah, we all You just it made me think about I'm a bow hunter too, and I'm a Pope and Young official scorer, and there was a guy that killed one of the biggest bucks in our state last year. Not the world record, by the way. I'm sure you've heard about that.
Yeah, we
I'm
did.
plugging my Tennessee hunting. But anyway, this guy had killed a deer in a residential neighborhood because his buddy called him and said, "I've got a buck in my backyard that you're not going to believe." And it was like a 160 gross 8-pointer, which where I come from is just an 8-pointer that you'll never see again.
That's a stud. Yeah.
I mean, it's just gargantuan, something I'll never see. But anyway, he was at a restaurant with his wife, and he just drove on over with his bow and skirted around the corner and shot it. And he wanted it to be measured for Pope and Young, and they don't allow that. They don't allow, it's always a subjective judgment call by the people there, but they don't allow you. That's not fair chase, and it probably shouldn't be. It might be fun and all that, but you can't really say that hunter put forth the effort that we usually put forth as hunters. So,
Right.
And I used to be the guy that worried about everybody else. When they let crossbows in Tennessee be legal during archery season, I had a fit. I was so upset because that was for weenies, and now I'm old and my shoulders hurt, and all these people that get to go hunting now because of crossbows, I've changed my mind in that just do what's best for you, and let's kind of kumbaya together as hunters.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's important. Well, before we move on, and we're gonna try to wrap this up pretty quickly to just respect your time, but I have one more just quick little question as far as whitetails go.
Sure.
You spoke on how certain flashes may spook the deer, and also scents and stuff like that, as far as sweat or other things may affect them. Have you noticed that these trail cameras, just by being there, that deer are wary of them? Just whether if it could be a no flash or it could be a daytime picture, and it's not really, it's a real quiet camera. Just by seeing that camera, have you ever noticed that has spooked a deer in your observance?
I guess there's no way to prove that it's just seeing it, but I'll say two things. One is all the deer are so different. I had a deer that I called Kim Kardashian because we take thousands of pictures, just selfies in front of the camera all day long, just with no problem at all. White flash. And then there are other deers that completely flip out. Most deer, there's some deer that flip out. I don't think there's any way to really know, but I think the key to my success in getting lots of pictures and is sort of maybe the opposite of what you were saying. Like on public land, you need to worry about trigger speed, because you might just get a chance opportunity at one shot of the deer walking by. But what I use is bait always. Now, you might not be able to bait in public land. You probably can't put a salt block out or whatever. But when I say bait, I mean often I'll use water, or I'll use some mineral supplements or like that. And the point to this whole conversation is the more that you have in front of the camera that they really want, the less they spook, the less they care about what a camera looks like.
Right.
And I haven't seen that they really care about what just deer will look right up into the stand at you, and you can have anything on you want. And as long as you're not moving, they're not that freaked out about it. But if you move or you take a picture or you make a noise, you're busted. But I don't think that the camera just being on the tree makes that big of a difference. And
right.
I also make it such that if the camera's on the tree singing Ted Nugent songs as loud as he can, the deer's not going to care as much, because there's going to be something there for it to eat. Yeah. Or drink.
Yeah.
Makes it easier.
Well, you spurred one more question for me. Now I'm trying to get into this figuring out how deer use water. And for us, at least in my mind, it's tough because, where we're at, all this stuff in the eastern half of Texas, a lot of these public lands are lowland, and there's tons of creeks that hold water, and, oxbows and rivers, and then there's ponds and old cattle tanks everywhere. If you could just kind of enlighten us on where you're finding the best use of your trail cameras around what,
Sure.
water sources or whatever.
Couple things. One is I only use it at certain times of the year. If it's really hot and there's a drought, or it's during the rut and the deer needing to run and needing more water, that's when I put it on water. Second, if it's whenever I do it, I try to do it when, like, if there's a drought or we haven't had rain in a while, I'll try to do it in a place where there's very little water, or one of the last places there is water. That always helps. Also, if I'm going for a creek, you can usually see the tracks in the mud for where they're crossing. And I'll just put the camera there and get them crossing. The other thing, and this is me being the goober photographer, I love doing this. I'll put on a pair of waterproof boots and walk out into the little pond. And when I say pond, I'm usually talking about something small that is a drink for the cattle. I'm not talking about a huge lake. I'm talking about something that's 10 or 15 feet or 20 or 30. And I'll walk out into the middle of it, and I'll get like a stake or a fence post, and I'll wire the camera to it, and I'll point it towards the bank. And it just gives you cooler pictures. You're looking at the deer drinking instead of the side or the back of a deer. And the cool thing about doing that during the drought is you get a picture of the bobcat coming to water. You get a picture of the turkey coming to try to eat the frog that's in the water. You get a picture of the hawk dive bombing the turkey that's trying to get the frog in the water. I mean, everything likes water. And so it's an interesting natural place to get cool stuff. And so pretty much every September, I've got September, October are the driest months here. So I've got some cameras over water, and I'm going to get something cool almost every time because they need water.
Yeah, you just lit a fire on me because I know exactly the place I'd like to try that tactic, and I never thought of it before. That's super cool. I'm ready to get out there and do it.
And do it in front of your tank, too. Me talking about the naturalist in my cool little natural photos, screw that. If you want to kill a deer, put it in front of your bathtub that's got water and take pictures. I mean, that's fun, too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And you can also, I don't really do this. I'm just going to be honest. I'm too lazy. But there are people that will find a very arid or a dry place where there's not water anywhere near there, and they'll make their own small water hole. And That's a great bait for animals. And
Oh, yeah.
I'm not talking about just cameras. I'm talking about killing deer.
Yeah. Around here we've got so many dang hogs, it's hard to even make that happen. They just tend to roll around in it making a mud hole. But it's like a constant struggle down here, just dealing with the hog versus deer thing. But it's a neat concept.
Man? I'm a giver, so I'm going to be nice and say, anytime you'd like me to come down to your spread and kill some pigs, I'll be glad to come help out. Yeah. Especially if you've got some of those in your Kansas areas, I'll come there too.
Well, I don't think they made it that far up yet, but man, Gil, anytime you want to come to East Texas and kill some hogs, come down. We'll show you a good time.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love it, man.
Hey, I want to ask you something. We mentioned homebrew cameras, and I'm not going to ask you to explain how to make one because that'd be real hard over audio. But do you know like a website or something, or where there's a diagram that we can kind of show some people? And I'd kind of like to try it myself, tell you the truth.
I have built one before, and it was the guy that builds them for me, jtswildlifecameras.com, JTS.
Okay.
But he can do what I did in about a year in about 30 minutes. So I would seriously, and there's other sites that you can look online. But I wouldn't consider building one myself. You have to buy all the components and spend a lot of time in learning, and you have to buy a soldering iron, and it's really fun, and I enjoyed it, but I'll never do it again because I can buy a really great camera, a great camera, much better than the very best commercial camera ever built by the most expensive ones, thousands of dollars. I can buy the one for $300 that's just so much better. I have no idea why people don't go into this and buy their cameras this way, but they just make a better product.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm very intrigued by that. Hey, we're going to try to wrap it up pretty quick, but
sure.
This year I got one of the most interesting pictures for me. I know for you it's probably pretty commonplace, but I have a coyote urinating in a scrape, and I thought that was just the weirdest thing, for me at least. It was kind of weird. And then later there's a coon doing the same thing in the scrape. So you have so much more experience with this than I do. What is the weirdest picture you've ever gotten on camera? Bigfoot?
It's funny you said that because the first week that I had a game camera, I put it out on my lease on a tree in the middle of nowhere overlooking a field which made the camera very easy to see. And I was so excited to get my first pictures back, and I went and I retrieved them. And one of the guys on my lease had at the time an 18-year-old son. He saw my camera and he dropped trowel and mooned it. And he had a big old hairy ass, and we called it Bigfoot. So that was pretty odd, right there.
Oh goodness, that's pretty good.
And I learned a lesson about covert camera placement after that.
All right.
Yeah, I think Tyler learned a lesson about peeing in scrapes this year on the camera. It's a very similar scenario.
Yeah, because if you're a guy like me, and I'm not going to be descriptive about this, but you don't want everything showing because your buddies will just laugh.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want a piece of that. So I have to turn around so nobody can actually see what I got going on.
Yeah, I hung a camera over a scrape this year, and KC wasn't with me, and I said, I got back and I started thinking about it, and then when I called him and told him where I put it, I said, and there may or may not be a picture of my weenie on there.
You might have to look hard to tell.
Yeah, exactly. It was pretty cold that morning. So,
but I'll tell you this one thing. I know we got to wrap up, but the most interesting pictures for me are when you lay out a smorgasbord for meat-eating animals and let whatever wants to come. And so my favorite thing to do is this time of year when the antlers have dropped and it's cold and meat will stay out in the cold for longer, is I'll get a roadkill deer or a deer that I have cleaned, or I will go to my processor and get meat, and I'll drag it out in the woods and hide it from the turkey vultures and whatever else that I don't want to get. And I'll put a camera over it, and you will sometimes get a bobcat fighting a raccoon, or
cool.
You'll get, like last week I got video of an interesting hawk on the kill, and there was a owl that came and attacked the hawk on the kill. And you just never know what you're going to get. So go off season, do something fun, and tie the animal down, because coyotes and bobcats and foxes will drag the kill off away from the camera. So make sure you tie it down.
Yeah, for sure. Man, Gil, this has been a great time. You're a pretty cool dude. I'm glad we got to talk to you. And
Me too. I enjoyed it.
Good. Hey,
anytime.
Anytime you want to come down and kill some hogs, come on down. And I need your help, man, because there are some giant grass carp in the lake here in Sulphur Springs.
God.
And
This is my fantasy.
I've caught one on my 8-weight, and they still have eluded me for the last 3 years, and I cannot make it happen. So if you can show us how to do that, that would be awesome.
Let me tell you, brother, you want to do another segment on that? Because I could talk for at least an hour on grass carp. That's more exciting. I mean, redneck fishing is the best in the world, especially with the fly rod.
Actually, we do, because we'll have a sister podcast coming out soon called The Hydro that's going to be all about fishing, and kind of specifically on fly fishing, but all kinds. And I'll tell you, man, there's nothing I love more. You can go look on some of my social media stuff, but I love catching big cats and big gar, catfish, not like felines. But last year I caught a 14-pound blue cat on my 8-weight, and I was stoked. So I'm all about the redneck fly fishing.
Well, I don't need to help you. You need to help me. That's really cool.
That was dumb luck, though. It's different.
That is not, I mean, we are a really rare breed. Most people are laughing in our faces. Catfish and gar and carp on a fly, oh my God. It's so much fun.
It is. I hooked 2 in the same morning last year, 2 carp here at the lake. I mean, they were big, and I fought the first one for almost an hour and the second one for almost 45 minutes and lost both of them. And I was fighting them on a 4-weight. That was probably my problem, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
You were just begging to lose that fight, weren't
I pretty
you?
much was. They straightened the hook on the second one, so
wow.
I was
How
pretty
much fun.
Yeah, it was fun for sure.
Tyler always shows up with a pole too small. It's just kind of one of his what happens with him.
Dang it. I walked into it.
I don't want to get into that, but I imagine he has that trouble all his life.
Oh man. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Gil. It's been a blast, and we've actually I know personally I've learned a ton. I'm sure KC and the rest of these people have too. Is there any way that people can see what you're doing, or take a look at your trail cam pictures as far as social media or website goes?
You know, one of the reasons I don't have a website is because I sell pictures, and they don't want me to put up the pictures I've already sold.
Yep.
But I have a lot on my Facebook page. So look me up on Facebook, and send me pictures, man. I love trail camera pictures. I learn from talking to you folks all the time. I learn from questions, and I don't know it all. I'm just always trying to learn something. I'll give you my email address.
Okay.
You can email them to me, or catch me on Facebook, Gil Lackey.
Okay. That's great, man. We'll make sure and link your Facebook page in the notes on this podcast, and as well as
Cool.
your JTS wildlife cameras and some of the other things that you've mentioned here, and make sure that people can get in touch with you. Any more speeches or anything going on or seminars going on in Texas or near the area anytime soon?
Gosh, I will probably be back for the Safari Club next year,
Cool.
not because they need me, but because I need them.
Yeah,
I've never been before. Oh my God.
It's awesome.
That is like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah.
If I had $50,000, I would have had a good time, because I could go on a safari, baby.
Yeah.
You guys, you Texas boys, I mean, go big or go home.
Yeah, that's where everything is.
That's how it goes down here.
Yeah, for sure. Well, cool.
incredible.
We definitely will have to hook up, and maybe if you have an extra day in your calendar around that DSC show, you can we can put you on some hogs or something.
Oh man, I would love it. I would have a ball doing
Cool.
it.
Cool.
I'm a giver, man.
I know it. I heard. That's what
You
the
don't wanna
industry
get rid
says
of-
about you.
Sometimes people, those big, mature, big rack deer can't be trusted either. I'd like to take some of those out of your herd too.
Well,
because I'm a giver.
When we
I'll
find
just
them,
take care of you.
yeah, when we find them, we'll let you know for sure.
That'd be great. I'd love it, man.
Cool, awesome, man. We appreciate it a lot, and hopefully we'll be talking to you soon.
Thanks, Gil.
That's great. Good to talk to you guys.
All right, man. We'll see you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, I'm glad y'all could have some fun at my expense.
Oh man, that was fun, dude. Gil is hoot, man.
He is, man. I didn't really know it was going to be that cool. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you a lot of these guys that are the so-called experts are quite a bit older than us, and for good reason. They've spent a lot more years in the woods, and that makes them an expert. But man, that was fun. That was like hanging out with another dude our age.
I want to hang out with Gil. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have to record. Hey, man, can I just call you up and see what you're doing?
Let's go to dinner, man. Next time you're at DSC,
Yeah, for sure. And I can't wait to go do a little fishing, and
especially in Tennessee, because
Yeah,
we're going.
for real.
We're going, and we're
I
gonna
gotta
have.
get back to the Smokies.
He's guiding us.
Yeah, for sure. But man, that was a good time.
Yeah, that was good, man. I really personally got a lot of good information there. I mean, you and I have kind of been through this the last several weeks, if not longer, about trail cameras and why this and how that and everything. And man, it's good to get a couple of those questions asked. I mean, we talked about this for a long time before we ever started doing the podcast, and I had the idea to do a podcast months before that. But one of the biggest reasons that we do this is for us. Like we want people to hear this and to get the information too. But man, like I have so many questions, and just to be able to talk to these guys, is awesome.
Yeah, we are learning with you.
Yeah,
that's what's going on right here. You know, like I mean, we do our best to get out in the field and attain as much knowledge as we can for ourselves. But I mean, there's no greater tool in this world than consulting people who know what they're doing.
Yeah,
you know,
dude.
and that's exactly what we did today. And got a cup of humor with it too. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure, man. So that about does it for us. I guess we're gonna make sure that we do lots of updates from the road. If there's anything cool that needs to be shown on our like live Instagrams and live Facebook stuff, I guess, right? We want to do some of that probably this weekend.
I'm gonna get a new phone between now and then, hopefully that actually doesn't die all the time mid video. So we should have some pretty sweet stuff. Yeah,
and then we, of course, will be carrying our regular DSLR mirrorless type stuff, and using our cameras to make a really cool, comprehensive video. Hopefully that shows the entire weekend, and I'll put that together. Hopefully, get it to you next week sometime, and we can link to that in next week's episode.
Hey, so since we're talking Iowa Draw real quick, when is your put-in date?
It's usually like 1st of June, I think.
1st of June.
So
if guys want to try to hunt Iowa in 3 years, they need to be looking at that for the 1st of June.
Yep, they do. Yeah. They do for sure. If you want to do the Iowa thing, and I mean, I know guys that have put in for it. They may never go, but it's always good to have that option.
Yeah. We can link to the Iowa DNR website for that.
Yeah,
kind of
let's
stuff
do that.
Too.
Let's do that, and then you can see what it takes to draw your region that you may be interested in. And I think I'm pretty sure just about anywhere in Iowa is pretty good, but there are definitely like places that are a little more historically renowned than others. So.
There's some big rivers that run through there. That are supposed to be pretty dang good.
That's seems to be a consistent parallel with whitetails and rivers. So big whitetails and rivers. So anyway, cool. Let's do this. Let's wrap it up. Keep an eye on the Facebook and the Instagram Friday, because we're going to be on the road, and we're not going to have a whole lot to do other than talk to each other and post live videos. So keep an eye on that, and you can find all that if you just search The Element on Instagram, The Element Podcast, or The Element Podcast on Facebook. You should be able to find that stuff, and make sure you refer us to a friend sometime if you like what we're doing, and also if you haven't yet. We're starting to get more reviews on iTunes, and man, that feels good, because we're just trying to do good by you guys, and also, like I said, get some information for ourselves, because it's all about getting outside and enjoying each other's company and enjoying the great outdoors. And that's what we love to do, and that's what we hope you guys and we imagine you guys probably do enjoy doing as well. So let's bond together, be brothers, help each other out. If there's anything we can do for you guys, make sure to send us a message on Facebook or anything like that too. And if there's anything you'd like to hear about, you can put that in your review on iTunes as well. So thanks for listening. God bless you guys, and make sure to get out and live in your element sometime this week or weekend. We'll see you soon. Peace.